everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and welcome to night 5 of the 2026 Spring Mini Skein mini-series. Tonight, we're not playing with mini skeins. We're going to be dyeing up a bonus full skein of yarn on a awesome mermaid base. The yarn for this bonus colorway is a sparkle yarn, but what makes it unique is that the sparkle is this iridescent stellina that looks opalescent when you have a more pastel or on the bare yarn, but then when you use a deeper color, you see the iridescent color kind of shift to this like warm orange and green and pink iridescent shift. This yarn is all 75% Superwash Merino wool, 15% nylon, 10% Iridescent Mermaid Stellina. And we're going to be dyeing our yarns today in both fingering weight and DK weights. Now, a mermaid yarn deserves a mermaid-like inspiration, especially for a spring and summer series, right? Earlier this series, I played around with color mixing a blue and a green, and the combination of these colors really felt oceanic, and I really wanted to sort of lean into some of these cool tones with their mermaid sparkle, which we knew the mermaid sparkle, I've used it throughout the series, looks great on a wide variety of colors. But I thought, let's lean into mermaid and create some mermaid yarn. I'm thinking that in addition to that blue and green, which is more of a teal, we could bring in some purples and some pinks, maybe some turquoise, and have a lot of fun. I have pre-soaked some of our yarn for a couple of hours. Going forward, I probably will do a shorter pre-soak, but it really depends on my mood if I soak my yarn overnight or for a couple of hours. But typically I try to do at least 30 minutes. But if the yarn base isn't very absorbent, like something that's a silk blend, then I'm more likely to aim for a longer pre-soak. And the pre-soak has no acid in it, it's just plain tap water. I pulled 5 colors from the Paradise Fibers acid dye line. Turquoise, magenta, violet, green, which is more of a teal, and blue. I put on my deluxe rubber respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves, and measured out 1 gram of each of these colors. I'm not necessarily going to use all of this dye of each of the colors on each layer, but this is sort of a starting point for me to play and see. Now, 2 colors I think I might want more of are green and blue, but I happen to have some dye stocks of those made up, so if I want to bump those colors up a notch, I have the dye already dissolved. I dissolved the dye I measured out in hot tap water, and so here are the colors we are working with. Now, the purple, as dark as it is looking almost like navy leaning, but I'm thinking that we might do like that blue all over towards the end and focus, I guess, mostly on those other 3 colors, and with the blue, this blue making a big appearance throughout as well. And so I have a lot of ideas, and well, as I said, let's go to the dye bath. With this stunning color palette, I don't think that I want to do something straight variegated. I think that I want there to be a little bit more randomness and blend of our colors. And so I think that I want to do a twisted skein technique. Not full immersion, but I think I want to twist our skeins in a pan and then apply the colors on in multiple layers and sort of see where we go and what we create. Let's go to the dye bath. We are gonna dye 500 grams of yarn in the pan. Now, the nice thing is that should there be an issue with 500 grams, I have enough yarn to revamp how we're doing this and edit the colorway. And I didn't even point out that I am twisting the yarn to add a little bit of some resist. This is going to allow, just like when I do twisted skeins but have it sort of like all tucked in, this is going to allow the color that we add at first to hit some areas of the yarn but not others. And even though we're going to be layering it, it'll give us a variegated effect. Now, if I want the resist to work well, I need to add some water in here before we come and start adding our dyes. Because if I were to just pour liquid dyes onto our yarn as it is right now, we would get a lot of the dye going into the yarn, which, I mean, makes sense. It would allow the yarn to be even more of a sponge. But if we have more water volume in here to start, even if it's only going partially up the skeins, then when we add dyes, it will sort of shift, allow things to shift within here a little bit more. But, you know, let's do I'm just doing a little zip tie test. Making sure nothing's gonna snap immediately. Okay, let's get some water. I probably could fit a 6th skein in here without too much issue. Okay, but I just added 8 cups of water. And it's amazing how high just 8 cups seems to go on the yarn. Now, to be fair to us, I'm gonna like fluff it out while things are cold, just a little bit. To be fair to us, we did have some water left in the yarn, but this is a good starting point. We have some yarn at the surface, some down the sides, and so let's heat things up so we can start adding color. I have not added any acid yet, but I'm gonna add some in with our dye. Okay, very carefully in this container. I have 500 milliliters of liquid, 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, and almost all of that purple dye. I'm adding some there, adding some here. You'll see that it's running over the top. We're gonna have some blends. That is fine. I'm gonna add a little bit more on both of those spots. Oh, I love what happens with the purple on this yarn. Okay, and I am going to go get, there was a little bit of undissolved purple dye in my cup, so this is not quite a whole gram. Now, I could have applied the purple 100% all over on here, and I didn't. I'm gonna bring in some of the pink now. I used about half of our pink dye, and I have it with a tablespoon of white vinegar, and I'm pouring it on here in this section. I might bring it over again in a moment, but I'm focusing really right there. Again, it'll probably spread. That's fine. Okay, and I have a tablespoon or 2 of white vinegar, our blue dye here. I'm adding it up here. And maybe half full of water. It's all a bit approximate because things are going to blend a bit on this layer, which is, again, totally fine. Oh, I am so excited. All right, I'm gonna set a timer for, I guess, 10 minutes, and then we'll be back. All right, our colors have mostly absorbed. I'm going to very carefully remove our yarn, untwisting as we go. Oh, this is good coverage. Ooh. Oh, I am so excited that we have so much coverage, but we do still have white left. And so that is what I wanted. Now, it does look like there is a little bit of color left in here. And so what I'm going to do is bring over our yarn mop, which has a little bit of other colors on it, to just quickly soak up some of this color. And this is going to allow our yarn, we don't need the yarn to cool that long, but it's going to allow it to cool for a minute or 2 before we go ahead and put it back in to add and twist it for our next layer of color. Check out that Mermaid Stellina. Oh, it's sparkling for me in person, but I don't know if it's sparkling on camera. You can see it sparkle a little bit. Those warm tones in there are amazing on these cooler toned colors. Okay, it had been a couple of minutes. gonna remove our yarn. Now, the one thing I did not do, and I did not think about a lot as I bring the yarn over and we are twisting it again, it might twist over on itself a little bit. That is fine. The goal is hopefully for some of the white areas to be exposed. What was I going to say? But the thing I did not think about while setting this up initially, I did not really consider the total amount of acid I would have in here and the volume. So this just means that when it's time for me to eventually go ahead and dye more pans, that conceivably I'm going to want to start with a fresh dye bath. And so sometimes when I'm going to be doing multiple pans and multiple batches, that can be a bit of a bummer. But given that the volume that we have in our pan and everywhere does matter a bit, it matters because the volume, oh my gosh, I can talk, I promise. The volume of colors that we're adding matters because of how it's increasing the volume within the pan. And so when I eventually remove this yarn, we're not going to know what the volume is left due to evaporation and things like that. So ultimately it does make sense to start fresh. I wrote down a plan. Okay, I'm now grabbing our remaining blue dye and I am going to be adding this on where the pink is over to this purple right here. So about half of the pan. And that was 500 milliliters of water and 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. And I would say from the depth of the blue here at this point, there was definitely more on that side, but I don't think that that's a huge deal. Okay, now for our green, I have the whole gram right here. The whole gram in 500 milliliters with a tablespoon of white vinegar, and I'm layering it over that blue and purple, trying to get a good coverage. Now some of this may blend and move down here, some won't. I may decide I want a little more blue down here. I'm undecided. We will give this, I guess, about 10 minutes. And then we can evaluate if I want to intensify the blue that we have down here. I am, once again, planning on adding turquoise a little bit all over eventually. So, yeah, I'll see you in about 10 minutes. Okay, it has been 30 minutes. And this is so pretty. It's very dark right now, but I really like it. Okay. Now I know it looks like what we have left in here is very blue. And it does read as a little bit turquoise, but I'm still gonna bring the yarn mop over because I think that some of that is just a little bit of green. Oh, I love that I still have bits of all these colors in here. Now, they're saturated. Adding like a blue to it is not going to brighten them, but I think, yeah, so adding blue isn't gonna make it brighter, but I think that it will still be really pretty, and it'll make the colors feel jewel tone-esque still, which I am very excited about. Because for the final layer, I'm not planning on doing something twisted. And I was considering putting the yarn in untwisted and then pouring the blue on top. I'm considering doing something a little different. But we'll see. We'll see. For now, I want to increase the water volume, because if I'm going to do this, and let the color be darker in some areas and still have spread, I think having more water will help. Okay. So I just added 16 cups of water. And I am going to actually probably remove the yarn mop now. This is really, really pretty. I've been using it to wipe up drips and all kinds of things today. All right, and now we can bring over our yarn untwisted and look at just how much it is floating. Oh my gosh, these colors are so good. And so it's sort of like the decision that I wasn't sure about was, maybe I should lift everything up. The decision that I was not entirely sure about was whether or not I wanted to put the blue dye in first and then add the yarn, or add all the yarn and then sort of pour the blue dye on. And I think I'm leaning towards like pouring the blue dye on here. Well, the camera has slipped a little bit. Now, there's still steam on the surface. We are definitely still warm. Okay, and I took about half of that turquoise dye that I measured, added 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, and filled it to 500 cups of water. And I'm now bringing this over like so. And the reason why I kept some in reserve is because I have a feeling I may want to flip the yarn and apply more color one last time. Because yeah, I can see areas where the color is like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Yeah, I can see some areas where the color is going and some areas where maybe we'll have less. This is nice. It's going to keep up with this sort of like layered effect. But we definitely have a lot of this color. Well, maybe not all over because there's more blue over here than there is over there. Okay, I'm not going to move it that much. 10 minutes, we'll come back and probably add the rest of this turquoise dye. Oh, I'm so excited. What was the point of using that magenta, that pink dye, if I'm gonna bring in all this blue and cover everything with more blue? Well, I really wanted our colorway to have blues, teals, and purples in it. But I knew that if I layered more and more blue, both with the more Crayola blue color and the turquoise, eventually the purple would start to look more royal blue, and we could lose some of that purple quality. And I knew that because we're going to bring in that turquoise, if I brought in a more pink color and then added the turquoise, we would still have some purple elements that would come through in our final yarn. Or at least that's the intention. I have had times in the past when I'm like, oh man, I should have gone with something that was slightly more pink if I wanted that purple to stick around. And so I thought that that would go well. And I didn't have a particular inspiration photo today, but I have something kind of in my head, like mermaid scales. And so I wanted there to be some elements of color shifting in here all as well. And yeah, I think that this is gonna work and do what I wanted in my head. All right, it has been 10 minutes. I bet we probably still have some blue in here. Yeah, there's some. And I see that there could be some areas that are a little more pastel, a little more white left as well, which is honestly fine. Ooh. It may have been faster to have this blue color be in like the water before, like instead of pouring it on, but by pouring it on, I can kind of choose where it goes, and it's sort of maintaining this, it's not quite scale-like, right? But I'm feeling the mermaid in here. So I'm gonna do basically the exact same thing. I really like this combination of eyeballing and also like having the dyes measured, because I don't know, I guess, how much of the pink and purple I actually used, but I've used up all of the other dyes. Now I'm trying to hit particular spots at first. but we're also just trying to spread this out all over. Okay, and I'm planning on checking in after 10 minutes again, not because I think that this only required 10 minutes, but more because I'm curious how much dye will be left. So I'll see you in a little bit. I like this all over color, and oh, that's so good. Yes, it looks like most of the color is on our yarn, and it doesn't appear like we're getting back staining from any of these other colors that we have in here. Ooh, we definitely still have some white. Okay, so maybe I will want to remove the yarn quickly, just to check and see if I have the coverage I want before we let it finish heat setting. Oh, I mean, that's looking good. Like, that's got a little bit of a pastel area. Okay, all right. See, we've got some white, but a little bit of white, which is really like a little bit of pastel blue in an area, is not a concern to me. I wanted to just make sure that we didn't have like a huge section of white. Okay, and we don't. Fine. All right, I'm feeling good. We definitely could have pumped up that blue, but I am just so happy. And the mermaid sparkle, oh my gosh, it looks so good. And if we have this out of focus, then you can really, oh, well, the camera's trying to focus on it anyway, but you can really see it sparkle. Okay, but what I'm gonna do now is leave everything in here to heat for another 20 minutes. Okay, it's been 30 minutes. Oh, nice. I turned the heat off, and then I also turned the light off, because for some reason that's connected. Okay, let's carefully and slowly remove our yarn. Oh, I can't get over the sparkle. Oh, even though we don't have a lot of pink left in here, like the more orange tones in the Mermaid Iridescent Stellina is bringing that in. Oh, I love it. I have to say that going into this project today, I did not know how long it was going to take. I did not know exactly what I was going to do at each little step and stage, and the alarm for my kid's school just went off, so so you can see the sparkle. So I think my timing is pretty darn perfect. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside to cool so we can wash it. Now, I have not talked about our yarn mop a lot today. This is just a skein of Knit Pick Stroll fingering weight yarn that I used along the way to soak up any spills on the counter, to wipe out this beaker that I was using to measure out colors, and so that way we wouldn't have some purple in there when I added the green or whatever the order was that I did. And it's just a very soft pastel colorway. Now, this is not the way I typically will heat set things, but my plan for this yarn right now is to let it sit in this dye bath that is still hot. I just turned off the heat. It is still very warm, and I'm gonna let the yarn cool off here. And you know, we may also take our yarn, wipe down the edges a little bit, as needed, but I don't think I need the heat on. I think that letting the yarn sit in here for, even if I just did 30 minutes, would be enough heat for a colorway that is this pastel. With this amount of water, it's gonna take a long time to cool off. And so it's sort of an easy peasy. I will remove it later on. I expect it'll look a lot like it does right now. And then I'll wash it off camera and I'll show you what it looks like in the end. But yeah, I'm really happy. We still have some color left. There's a little bit of pink. And then I mentioned there was some purple powder on the bottom of the cup. So we have a bit of purple here as well. And I may save this to use for a next batch. I don't know. But I'll probably pop a lid on here and set it aside. And then I will be dyeing more of the colorway off camera. But first, we'll wash the yarn and see how we feel and all that jazz. I'm not even turning on the light on my stove, but this is hours later, at least 3 hours later, and the water is maybe room temperature. It's not cold, but it's not warm anymore. So I'm gonna set this aside. Well, not to cool, I'll wash it shortly. It's cool enough to wash, but I'm gonna wash it off camera. Let's wash our mermaid yarn. Oh, now I'm feeling very optimistic here because as I put in some soap, I'm feeling optimistic because there didn't seem to be very much color left in the dye bath. So I'm hopeful that if there's any color that comes out, it'll be very, very minimal. And I see like a tiny hint of blue, which I'm not worried about because I have 500 grams of yarn here in this basin. So we are pretty good, but oh my gosh. Yeah, can you see the sparkle from all over there? The like orange and pink, just, oh my gosh, contrast with these colors in the best way. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love Iridescent Stellina that is like purple and blue. But this is so fun. Oh yeah, and the water is clear. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in my spin dryer, hang it up to dry. But oh man, I love it! Oh, I love this colorway. I considered sticking in the like green and blue area for this. Really sticking in these deep colors and allowing this pop of our Iridescent Stellina to really come through. But I'm really glad that I decided to expand things because I wanted to do more than just, I mean, I still want to do a layered tonal with those colors, but I wanted to do something that wasn't as simple for this bonus colorway. And I feel like with these small-ish sections of color, you could get something that is gonna feel very mermaidy, and I don't know, I liked doing some kind of mermaid colorway on this mermaid base. To show off the sparkle, I took some footage on my phone, but sometimes out of focus with the flash. Sometimes if I bring in the flash, the camera can pick it up, but honestly, you can see the like sparkle a little bit better when the camera is out of focus. And you can see those little pops of shimmering light. It sparkles way more in person. It's just so hard to see on camera. But now we have our first batch, my second batch, and my third batch. The second and third batches were dyed at the same time. I had 2 pans up on my stove and I did it off camera. And I feel like we have a lot of consistency with the first colorway, but maybe we have a little bit more of the light blue showing through, a little bit less coverage. I don't remember now if in the first batch I helped the colors move through with a spoon when I poured them on or not. I don't think I did. But, you know, that is just something that can be a little bit different day to day because everything was dyed on a different day with a bit of a break between. But we have the same overall feeling and I'm very, very excited. Before we go twist things up, I wanted to show off some of our yarn mops. We have the yarn mop I dyed with our first batch, and then 2 mops we dyed with the second batch. Everything has like bits from spoons and whatnot wiped on it, but I think this one has a bit less of the pink and purple overall, and these 2 have a little bit more. All of them are pastel, and you could call them very mermaid also, but I like that they're different enough that if someone had a mystery yarn mop, leave no dye behind skein, plus a skein from this night, they're gonna feel like different colorways, even though they're dyed with the same colors. It's just the technique and everything is different. And I adore creating bonus skeins like this. The fingering or sock weight version and DK weight version of this colorway are very similar. Now these 2 were dyed in different pans, but side by side, and these 2 were dyed in the same pan. I'm rotating, and I do feel like we have a lot more pastel on this second day of dyeing than the first day. I think there was a little bit more spread. But again, some of that comes down to how I poured. And also there were elements of this technique where I was like, okay, I mixed up 1 gram of dye in a random volume of water. I'm going to use approximately half of that on the first side. And so that allows some variability to come into play, which if I'm playing with all the dyes at the same time, we can have a lot of consistency, but maybe not as much consistency between batches. But I mean, overall things are very, very consistent. I'm just observing a bit of a dye lot difference myself. But even within one pan, there's going to be a lot of variation, because what if one skein has a little bit more twist? Or what if it's a little bit more on the surface when we pour on that bright blue dye at the end? And so those variables can also come into play. But I really, really love it. And so that is what matters. When it comes time to twist up the yarn, I always end up having a lot of thoughts. And that's mainly because, you know, which end should I hold it from? How should I turn it? Because it can make the yarn seem different. This particular yarn is variegated enough that I think how I twisted the skein isn't going to have as big of an impact in what it looks like twisted, but it can, and I did my best to be consistent with the way I twisted things. You know, this colorway has some of the best of both worlds when it comes to our Mermaid Stellina. In the darker sections, you can see it really pop and become more orange. But in the paler sections, it doesn't stand out as much, giving more of like an opalescent, subtle quality that I hope I'm picking up on camera. I love it. I love it. And I do plan to dye more of this colorway. Either I already have some more in stock, or I may have a dyed to order listing for this colorway and a couple of the other Spring Mini Skein mini series listings. Not everything, but there's a few things that I will dye up more of. Make sure you check out the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop for full details. This colorway makes me so happy. I really hope that all of you love it as much as I do. I am so glad that I went for both the pink and the purple, because I do think some of the original purple shifted more royal blue, much more of a blurple or iris color once we layered on that bright turquoise blue. And then our pink shifted, it's still more of like a warmer berry purple than like a violet purple, but we have those purple tones in there, and I think that that makes things really spectacular. As of the time I'm filming these conclusions, this is the last skein of this colorway I have available of our beautiful mermaid yarn on a mermaid base. But I do have a dyed to order listing. I can dye up more of this colorway. I do have one little regret that I didn't also try this on the yarn base that has the mermaid sparkle and the neon naps. I mean, I think that this would look really cool with some neon pops of color. I'll have to look and see if I have any of that base, because if I do, maybe I can add a couple of those to the dyed to order listing. But you let me know in the comments or in the live chat what you think I should do. Now, tonight is not the last night of the 2026 Spring Mini Skein mini series. We have one more night, the behind the scenes vlog, where I'll take you through a lot of the thought process along the way, some mistakes I made, how I corrected them, and things like that. It's a lot of fun to put these vlogs together because I can't share any spoilers along the way. So I sort of pour that energy and excitement into filming some clips, which, I mean, I haven't looked at the footage yet, so who knows what we have. But I do know that there is something I kept out of one of the main videos, an oops that I was able to fix. Now, I've already mentioned the shop, ChemKnits Creations, but the biggest thing you can do to help support all of the content here is subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. I post at least twice a week, and sometimes we have special events like this where I post more often, and you don't want to miss any of it. And so it's free, and if you enjoy the content, it's a win-win. And I guess as we go to sign off, I just have to say, wool to die for. I want more mermaid options. I want mermaid everything. Ooh, a mermaid silk blend? Other colors of mermaid iridescent sparkle, there is demand, at least from me, so I would love to see more. Actually, maybe I should send them an email and say, hey, do you think you'd give us mermaid in more colors? But maybe I'll do that later on. But anyway, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching.